discovered that, according to our genetic structures, it might be Peter who was the clone, not me.
Welcome to WatchMojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 20 Marvel moments that made fans rage quit.
Trust me. Hail Hydra.
For this list, we'll be looking at the most poorly received, divisive, and ill-conceived comic book moments that angered fans. Since we'll be diving into the full plots, beware of spoilers ahead. Which of these Marvel moments made you rage quit? Let us know in the comments.
Hey Mojoholics! For a chance to win cash prizes, play our live daily trivia challenges every day at 3 p.m. and 8 p.m. Eastern only at WatchMojo.com/play.
Number 20. Why Kamala Khan Died. In the questionable Amazing Spider-Man number 26, Mary Jane reveals she was knowingly dating a villain's son, her kids from an alternate dimension vanish, and she nearly dies.
Mary Jane! No! Where did she go?
But Miss Marvel got the worst treatment. Knowing that main villain, the Emissary, wanted to use Mary Jane as a human sacrifice, Kamala Khan shapeshifted into the form of the famous redhead. The big bad then killed her and subsequently died too because he failed to slay the real person. Not only was this a cheap end to a powerful villain, but it was also a lackluster end for Kamala. She died in an already very complicated Spider-Man storyline instead of her own story. As a result, her deep life and legacy felt like a shallow afterthought.
What am I even doing here?
Wow, leaving so soon?
Number 19. Iron Man's heel-turn-sacrifice. During the Crossing storyline, Tony Stark is revealed to be working for the villainous Kang and attacks his fellow Avengers.
This isn't gonna change what happened. I don't care.
In order to stop the genius, the other heroes go back in time and get a younger version of Iron Man. The plan backfires when the older Tony leaves the youthful version clinging to life. After committing all of these heinous acts, Iron Man decides to sacrifice his life to stop Kang's plans in the last issue of the crossover. His rapid heel turn understandably baffled fans. Since it came so quickly after so many vicious acts, it was hard to feel bad for his death here. And since he came back to life later anyway, this death felt even more pointless.
What am I even tripping for? Everything's gonna work out exactly the way it's supposed to.
Number 18. Aunt May is Peter Parker's biological mom. May Parker is typically the kind aunt that takes in Peter Parker after his parents disappear. However, there's a universe where their relationship is more complicated.
There's something you're not telling me, Aunt May. Every time I mention my parents, your eyes go down.
In the Trouble miniseries, it's revealed May slept with her best friend's boyfriend, Richard Parker. She did so multiple times before getting pregnant. Instead of telling Richard the truth, May's best friend Mary pretends she had baby Peter instead. This storyline could have been an interesting twist on Spider-Man's parentage if it was written with a little more tact. Mary only agrees to go through with this scheme because she wanted to test Richard. Additionally, the fact that this Aunt May hid the truth after Peter's parents disappeared made it seem like she was lying to Peter for years.
You lie to me. I know you love me.
I don't.
I know you love me, but you do.
Number 17. Sinister heroes are instantly excused. A plot where the villains become good while the heroes become evil seemed like a pretty fun and intriguing concept.
News or footage, keyword Hulk. Natasha, I could really use a lullaby.
Unfortunately, confusing twists and badly written characters made the event hard to follow. The story's quality sank to a new low at the very end of the arc when the good guys and bad guys returned to normal. Since the heroes had done some very bad things, it seemed like future comics would see them struggle to regain the trust of the public. But it's revealed the villains conveniently recorded a video where they take full responsibility. This cheap cop-out felt incredibly underwhelming. In the end, we were robbed of a chance to see heroes struggle to win back their reputations.
The news is loving you guys. Nobody else is. There's been no official call for Banner's arrest, but it's in the air.
Number 16. Villains try to make Nightcrawler into an evil pope.
We just want to talk.
Having Nightcrawler become a villain can make for a very compelling story. However, this infamous Uncanny X-Men story tried to make the plotline work in the absolute worst way. After mutants are targeted by the corrupt Church of Humanity, the heroes confront the villains. They soon learn that they brainwashed Nightcrawler into thinking he was a Catholic priest.
I could see it all happening, but I couldn't stop myself. It was like a bad dream.
Furthermore, the Church of Humanity would ensure the mutant became Pope while looking human, uncover his identity in public, and make people believe he was a demon from hell. This would somehow lead to a holy war against all mutant kind that would lead to their deaths. Even for comics, this plan was way too convoluted, ridiculous, and silly to take seriously.
He's not going anywhere. Are you?
Please don't kill me. I didn't mean to harm anyone.
Number 15. Mary Jane's Cause of Death. Fans were largely pleased with the dark and dystopian glimpse at Peter's future that this series provided.
Fifth Avenue? It can't be. How long have I been gone? What's happened here?
Despite having many high points, the worst part of this grim story was MJ's death. The comic initially doesn't tell us how Spider-Man's love interest died, but in issue 3, we learn that Mary Jane died from cancer. As it turns out, she got sick because Peter Parker's body is filled with radioactivity. He ends up screaming that certain adult activities caused her to come into direct contact with his bodily fluids. Besides being absurdly gross, this reveal was a terrible way of getting rid of an iconic character. Both Mary Jane and the readers deserved more than this.
Face front, true believer. We are going to find the real Mary Jane Watson.
What?
Number 14. A tense war abruptly ends. There seems to be no way to end a conflict between two of Marvel's largest superhero groups. The Inhumans inadvertently caused a cloud of a substance known as Terrigen Mist to spread.
I watched the Avengers fight bad guys until the Terrigen wave spread across the planet.
Since the weather formation was deadly to mutants, the X-Men were pulled into a major conflict against the former group. Their bad blood escalated to a brawl for survival. But it all comes to an end when the Inhuman Medusa is literally handed away to destroy the cloud and just does. There's no debate, last-minute pleas, or desperate maneuvers. Medusa simply ends the war on the spot and the survivors go home. This anticlimactic finish was a major letdown for fans hoping this conflict would have a bigger end.
We're here to stay, Mr. President. The next move is yours.
We'll be watching.
Number 13. Magneto is not the father. Back in the 1980s, comic fans were shocked to learn that Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver were actually Magneto's children.
He's my father.
What?
Him and my mom, they did.
No, I know, but are you sure?
This familial revelation formed the basis of a lot of interesting stories between the trio. That's why fans were baffled when their bloodline was suddenly severed. While Wanda was temporarily turned evil, she cast a spell that only affected her family. When it didn't work on Magneto, she realized the mutant leader wasn't her father. This reveal stirred up a lot of confusion about the history of the siblings. A 2021 story tried to work with this change by having Wanda accept Magneto as a chosen father. However, the original plot point is still a sore spot among fans.
I met him 10 years back, but I didn't know it was him. By the time I figured it out, it was too late.
Number 12. Carol completely bets on the future. A major conflict between heroes begins after Captain Marvel meets an Inhuman that can tell the future.
What did you see?
They want to kill you.
Who?
While she wants to go after villains before they commit crimes, Iron Man is a little less reluctant to persecute people early. The two really argue after Rhodey dies in a battle that was seen in a vision. After Stark calms down a bit, he lets Carol know that the visions aren't necessarily foolproof. But Captain Marvel ultimately ignores those recommendations and keeps arresting people.
I've been looking all over for you. See, when you go to jail, you're supposed to stay there. Come on, I'm taking you back.
While we weren't expecting the conflicts to end easily, the fact that Carol didn't hesitate to rely on a process that got Rhodey killed seemed too out of character to accept. Number 11. Iron Man and Black Widow's adult video gets leaked. Within the Ultimate Marvel Universe, Black Widow and Iron Man got very, very close.
If this was your last birthday party you're ever going to have, how would you celebrate it?
I'll do whatever I wanted to do, with whoever I wanted to do it.
Everyone learns exactly how intimate the two were in an explicit way. After Black Widow is killed for committing an unforgivable act, a tape of her bedroom activities with Iron Man went public. The tape is then played on a gigantic screen in the middle of Avengers HQ. And trust us when we say the comic leaves very little to the imagination.
When we arrive, I need you to watch the perimeter. I'm gonna enter the facility and take down the target. Watch the road.
I got it.
Not only is this close encounter incredibly uncomfortable, but the fact that Black Widow is over-sexualized after her death made it feel like an insult. No one wanted to see these two Avengers fully exposed in such a bizarre and upsetting way.
Is that dirty enough for you?
Gold face, brown band. The Jaeger. I'll give that a look.
Number 10. The twisted history of Carol's sudden pregnancy. 3 days after Carol learned she was pregnant, she gives birth to a rapidly aging baby boy.
Wait, now hang on there a minute, you young whippersnappers.
Let's just hope this dog stays the same size.
She eventually learns the shocking truth about the child. In the past, a man named Marcus from another dimension in time pulled her into his world. Once there, he manipulated her mentally and emotionally until she agreed to sleep with him. Marcus then wiped her memories and sent her back to Earth so she'd give birth to him as part of a time loop. This sick and twisted scheme ends with Carol willingly going to live with him in another dimension. Meanwhile, the other Avengers idly stand by. For readers, it was utterly disgraceful to watch Carol get put through everything she'd endured without her friends intervening.
Let me out.
No can do.
Number 9. Marvel Swimsuit Special. Comic book characters are often illustrated as idealized versions of the human form, often exaggerated to a ridiculous, anatomically impossible degree. For some readers, these sexy images are part of the appeal of the medium. So, in the early 90s, Marvel gave the people what they wanted with the Marvel Swimsuit Specials. They featured many of fan-favorite characters scantily clad and posing seductively in a classic pin-up fashion. This led to many of the world's mightiest heroes being reduced to cheap fan service. And for some fans, seeing the hardcore Punisher or skeletal Ghost Rider in barely anything was far more unsettling than titillating. Number 8. Wolverine is a lupine. We can only imagine how tempting it must be for comic book writers to shake up the history of a character they've been charged with writing. The thing is, with great power comes great responsibility. Namely, the responsibility to think ahead about how the readership is going to respond. In 2007, Jeff Loeb introduced Romulus, an apparent millennia-old figure who had allegedly orchestrated everything in Wolverine's life. It's revealed to Logan that he's not even a mutant, but a member of the lupine species, which evolved not from simians like humans, but canines. Many fans hated the implications of both revelations. Thankfully, it was retconned after just a few years, dismissed as lies and manipulation. Number 7. The Clone Saga. It's hard to pinpoint one exact moment when readers turned on Spider-Man's infamous Clone Saga. Spectacular Spider-Man number 226 is a strong contender, with Peter Parker being revealed as the clone and that shameful panel when Peter hits Mary Jane. Then there was the seemingly endless parade of clones, including Ben, Kane, Guardian, Jack, and Spider-Side. As the convoluted story arc dragged on from 1994 to 1996, there were countless narrative choices, revelations, and fake-outs to frustrate readers, while some fans simply grew weary of Marvel's refusal to tie things up in a reasonable amount of time. Major comic events and arcs always serve to increase sales, but rarely are they so transparently and artificially prolonged in the name of profit. Number 6. Heroes Reborn. Not to be confused with the NBC miniseries, Heroes Reborn was a crossover that ran from 1996 to 1997, spinning out the events of the Onslaught storyline. As any comic book fan collecting at the time will attest, the 90s was a dark decade for the industry, both literally and figuratively. The doom, gloom, and grittiness were off the freaking charts. And so, Marvel decided to do a large-scale reboot, reinventing their most beloved characters to fit the times. The makeovers were bad enough, but they actually outsourced the work to Image Comics founders, including the much-maligned Rob Liefeld. Fans were divided to say the least, and many consider it to be a low point for the company creatively. Number 5. The MAXIMOFFS Get Too Close. The Ultimate Universe was honestly a much bigger success than most people would have or could have predicted. During its heyday, it gave us the excellent Ultimate Spider-Man series, which genuinely attracted a whole new generation of readers to the medium. Sadly, not everything was so well executed. We get that this universe was envisioned as a safe space for writers to take risks with iconic characters, but we're not sure if taboo relationships were what people were clamoring for. A weirdly intimate relationship was established between twins Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver in this universe, and in Ultimates 3, all subtlety was thrown out the window. Thankfully, modern comics have stepped away from this taboo plotline. Number 4. Captain America, Agent of HYDRA. Honestly, this reveal makes the whole Wolverine as a dogman retcon look like a crowd pleaser. What in the history of comic books made anyone think this was a good idea? If there's one hero that people hold sacred, it's Captain America. He doesn't go bad. He doesn't betray people. Even when given a hard choice, he remains a pillar of morality. We get the need to generate headlines and counteract dwindling sales with must-read events, but this was seen as insulting to Cap's legacy, a clear exercise in shock value. In these modern times, seeing the Sentinel of Liberty turned into a terrorist was a step too far, and the community was vocal in their disapproval. Number 3. The Norman Osborn Gwen Stacy Affair. The majority of modern-day comic book readers are teens and adults, meaning that some sexual content is totally acceptable, but keep it in good taste. That's why the revelation of an affair between Norman Osborn and Gwen Stacy was met with revulsion. The age gap was bad enough, but this revelation tainted a beloved character. Stacy's relationship with Peter is one of the most important in comic books, and her tragic death plays a major role in shaping Spider-Man. By revisiting one of Spidey's most pivotal moments, Sin's past established itself as one of Marvel's worst. The fact that the affair resulted in children only added insult to injury. Number 2. Ultimatum deaths. Remember when we were talking about the missteps of the Ultimate Marvel line? This was one of the major ones, or rather, a collection of them. As discussed, part of the fun with this separate Marvel universe was that it allowed the writers to craft stories with real stakes and consequences. A death, if well executed like that of Peter Parker, can make for a moving moment that goes down in comic book history. massacring a laundry list of characters in cruel, grotesque, and unusual fashion, self-sabotaging your successful universe? Not so much. Dozens of characters were killed, including major players like Cyclops, Thor, Magneto, Daredevil, Wolverine, Hank Pym, and more. That's how you ruin a good thing. Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1. Spidey's deal with the devil. You knew this was coming. Honestly, if you told us in 2005, after the conclusion of Sins Past, that something worse awaited Spider-Man, we likely would respond with the word impossible. But we'd be wrong. That infamous arc came before a despised 2007 story that will forever live on in infamy. Going against character, Peter makes a deal with Mephisto, a literal devil, in order to save Aunt May and hide his secret identity anew. The cost? His marriage with Mary Jane, their future child, and the immeasurable other changes that surely result from altering history. Yeah, fans raged alright. Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.